Throughout history, humanity's greatest strength has been its ability to grow food from the earth. For thousands of years, our survival depended on a simple cycle. Plant seeds, wait for the rain, harvest when the sun shined. But in the 21st century, this ancient cycle has begun to break. Climate change, overpopulation, and endless wars are pushing the global food system to the edge of collapse. In recent years, scientists have been warning us about an undeniable truth: our planet is struggling to feed us. Drought is no longer limited to Africa. It now threatens the farmlands of North America, the plains of Europe, and the fertile valleys of Asia. Fields that were once green and abundant are now turning into barren deserts. Global warming has changed the seasons. Rain no longer comes when it's needed. Sometimes it doesn't arrive at all, and sometimes it strikes violently, destroying everything in its path. Farmers are losing their crops, entire harvests wiped out in a single season. The impact doesn't stop with small rural communities. Industrial agriculture is also being devastated. But climate is not the only enemy. Around the world, wars and conflicts have disrupted food production and trade. When the war in Ukraine broke out, the world witnessed how fragile our supply chains really are. Millions of tons of grain were trapped in ports, unable to reach the countries that depended on them. In the Middle East and Africa, violence and instability have deepened famine. A single regional conflict now has the power to starve entire nations. The consequences are visible everywhere. Supermarket shelves, once filled with endless varieties of food, are starting to look empty. In some countries, the price of bread doubled in just a few weeks. Rice and wheat, foods once considered basic staples, are becoming luxury items. For the first time in generations, people in both poor and rich nations are living under the shadow of hunger. Perhaps the most devastating impact of this crisis is the silent suffering of children. Malnutrition is spreading at alarming rates. According to the World Health Organization, millions of children go to bed hungry every single night. And this is no longer just a problem for developing countries. Even in wealthy nations like the United States, millions of families now depend on food banks to survive. This is the beginning of something far bigger than a local crisis. What we are facing is a global turning point, one of the greatest challenges humanity has ever known. The question is no longer if hunger will spread, but how far it will reach. And in this fight, there will be no winners or losers among nations. The true battle is for humanity itself, because hunger knows no borders. As the food crisis deepens, the world begins to unravel. What started as rising prices and empty shelves has now become a full-scale collapse of global stability. Economies are shaking, governments are failing, and ordinary people are being pushed to the breaking point. In city after city, food riots erupt. Crowds of desperate citizens storm supermarkets, fighting over the last bags of rice and flour. Police forces struggle to maintain control, but hunger is stronger than fear. It no longer matters whether a country is rich or poor. When food disappears, chaos takes its place. The collapse of global supply chains has triggered a domino effect. Shipping routes are paralyzed, trade agreements broken, and international cooperation shattered. Nations that once depended on imports are cut off, left to fend for themselves. Exporting countries trying to protect their own populations impose strict bans on food sales abroad. What used to be a global market is now turning into a battlefield of survival. Famine spreads fastest where poverty is already severe. In parts of Africa, South Asia, and Latin America, entire communities are displaced. Families abandon their homes, searching for food in neighboring countries. Refugee camps swell with millions of hungry souls, overwhelming humanitarian organizations that simply cannot keep up. But the crisis is no longer confined to the global south. In Europe and North America, social unrest grows. Protests break out in major cities as ordinary people face skyrocketing food bills. Long lines form outside food banks. Governments attempt emergency measures, subsidies. Leaders who cannot provide for their people are overthrown. Extremist movements rise, promising to restore order by any means necessary. Borders close, armies mobilize, and nations begin to see their neighbors not as allies, but as competitors in a fight for survival. The global food crisis has now transformed into something larger, a crisis of civilization itself. The very systems that kept the world connected, trade, diplomacy, cooperation, are disintegrating under the weight of hunger. Humanity, once united by progress, is being torn apart by desperation. The collapse is not just about food. It is about power, security, and the future of our species. And the terrifying truth is that we are only in the middle of the story. The worst may still lie ahead. The collapse of the global food system forces humanity to confront a terrifying question: what comes next? Will we adapt, or will we fall into an age of famine and conflict unlike anything seen before? Experts warn that by 2050, the world's population will exceed 9 billion. To feed everyone, food production would need to increase by at least 70%. But with shrinking farmland, unstable climates, and limited resources, traditional agriculture cannot keep up. Humanity must turn to new, unconventional solutions that may redefine what we call food. One possibility is synthetic and lab-grown food. Scientists are developing meat grown directly from cells, bypassing the need for livestock. In futuristic laboratories, burgers, chicken, and even fish are created without a single animal. Supporters claim this technology could feed billions, while reducing the environmental destruction of farming.
It's so good to be here with you
Critics,
all.
however, warn that it may remain too expensive and inaccessible for those who need it most. Another proposed solution is the rise of insect protein. Rich in nutrients and cheap to produce, insects could become a staple source of food in the future. In some parts of the world, this is already happening. But for many, the psychological barrier of eating insects remains a challenge. Vertical farming and AI-powered agriculture are also on the rise. Skyscrapers filled with hydroponic plants, drones monitoring crops, and robots harvesting food are no longer science fiction. They are becoming reality. These methods could revolutionize farming, especially in cities where farmland is scarce. But the question remains, will technology arrive fast enough to stop the wave of hunger already spreading across the globe? For many experts, the nightmare scenario is not just about empty plates, but about the breakdown of human society. If inequality grows, the divide between those who can afford high-tech food and those who cannot will widen. A future where the wealthy dine on lab-grown steaks while the poor fight over scraps of bread is a recipe for permanent unrest. Yet there is still hope. History has shown that humanity can adapt under pressure. Just as the green revolution of the 20th century transformed agriculture, a new wave of innovation may rise to meet the challenge. But this time, innovation alone will not be enough. Cooperation between nations, a commitment to sustainability, and a willingness to change our diets may decide the fate of billions. The future of food is uncertain. It could lead us into a golden age, where no child goes hungry, or into a dark age, where famine becomes the new normal. The choices we make today will shape the world of tomorrow. And in the end, survival will depend not only on technology, but on whether humanity can come together before it is too late.